We have to wait for people
Oh,
to get in.
Let me make you host. Yeah, I'm about to, well, it's still in practice mode. Cancel. What's wrong one? So we haven't actually gone live yet. Make co-host. Yes. Okay. And we are live. All right. Let's see. People starting to come in. Hello, everyone that are coming in. We're going to give it a few minutes before we get started. There's Mr. Nate Paolozzi.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Numbers are going up, Big Nate.
All right.
We'll give it a couple, like another more minute or so. Did the All right. So I think we got most of the goalkeepers. I know John said he had a bunch of his goalkeepers that were going to be on.
Sounds good. Ready to kick it off?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the MYS webinar series. As we've done in the past, we were trying to highlight different types of players, professional, college players, to give you guys an insight into the experience of the youth experience and the recruiting process of a lot of the players that have come through McLean. Today we welcome Nathan Paolozzi, who is a former goalkeeper for me in McLean 2000. I played on the McLean Hotspur team from U14 to U19, I believe, and was part of the team that won the national championship in 2015-16 season. He's currently now a goalkeeper at JMU, and so we're going to talk to him briefly for about 30 minutes about his experience, to give you guys an experience from a goalkeeper's perspective, what it's like to go from a youth player to playing college, and then you guys can ask questions, and he can give you some advice. So you guys can submit your questions using the Q&A feature at any point in time, and we'll try to get those as we talk to Nathan, and then we'll go from there. So Alan, if you want to take the first one.
All right. Yes. Nathan, thank you again for taking the time to join us. It's great to see you. Just want to start off with your youth career here in McLean. When did you start? How old were you when you came to McLean? And how did you end up in Hotspur?
So I started playing soccer at Fairfax, actually, and then I left Fairfax, came over to McLean in U14, I believe. Is that correct, Coach Jamil?
Yeah.
U14, yeah. I came over at U14 with a couple of players from the Fairfax Fury team. And after our first year, after our second year at McLean, won the national championship. That was probably the biggest feat of my youth career. That was, like, as the team-wise, that was the most exciting part of my career. So we did that. We won multiple state cups, multiple regionals. I don't know the exact numbers for all that stuff. It was a lot of states, regionals, and nationals, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of winning you did.
Yeah, a lot of winning.
I would say, what made you want to pick that position? How did you start in soccer in general, and what made you decide goalkeeping over the other position?
It's actually kind of an interesting story. So I used to play as a tight end for football when I was really, really young. And one of my good friends, Connor Bath, his dad was starting a house league for soccer. And we didn't know anybody who actually was able to play goalie, because we needed goalies at this sort of house. It was still small goals, was pretty small goals. But So I offered. I was like, you know what, I can play goalie. I can catch a ball. I can try. And so that's when I started playing. And then since then, I went to the Fairfax team after that. And then I started playing indoors actually originally. And then after indoors, then the field, 11v11. And then from there on, into playing.
And when did you think obviously you got into soccer kind of, your friends were playing and you wanted to play goalie and it was kind of fun, but when did it become more serious for you in terms of your training and your approach to the game?
My approach to the game became very serious when I came to McLean. After the first year that I came to McLean, I really saw the difference between the level that I'd been playing at before and the level of McLean. And it was light and day from practicing to how hard we went to practice to compared to the games. Like everything was we worked as hard as we possibly could every practice, every game. And that's what really changed it for me. It changed it more of kind of something that I did for kind of just to do to something that I was actually passionate about, something I wanted to succeed in life doing and go to college to play.
And what would you say some of the training that you got at McLean or outside of McLean, did you have a private trainer that you worked with on the side to help you?
I worked with a private trainer on the side along with the McLean goalkeeper training. I worked with a private trainer on the side.
Okay. What do you love? Go ahead, Alan. What do you love about playing goalkeeper overall?
I was going to ask the same question.
The main reason I love playing goalkeeper is it's the only position on the field where you see everything. You see the whole field. You see what is going on. You see what is about to happen. You know what's about, or not always, you don't always know what's about to happen, but you could guess as to what's about to happen. And I like being able to see everything when I'm playing. And I like being able to orchestrate, tell the team what to do, and kind of go off on that. I kind of like to just be the leader of the team.
Okay. Alan, go ahead.
So what high school did you attend, and did you play high school soccer? And how was it between high school and club?
I attended Paolozzi Catholic High School in Fairfax. I played soccer there for 3 years. The you want to know what the differences between the two, the club and high school, correct?
Yeah.
The main difference that I saw between the two, between high school and club, was that club was a lot more serious, a lot more. It was a lot more. I felt like everybody cares in club. Everyone wants to succeed. Everyone wants the same goal, and the same goal is to win. You want to win. You want to get better. Compared to high school, I felt was more for kind of like a fun, like just kind of get together for fun. It's not really there to succeed and bring your level up higher. So at least in my opinion of high school compared to club.
Okay.
Nice. When did you start recruiting process for goalkeepers, colleges? What grade were you in? What were your schools that reached out to you, or how did that come about?
So I started my recruiting process September 1st of my sophomore year. I was contacted a few times during that day, the first day that they're able to. I don't know if it's changed since then, but when I was being recruited, it was September 1st of your sophomore year. I was contacted a few times that day, and then after some phone calls there, after some phone calls on that day, I got invited to my first visit. And then throughout my sophomore year, I went on many more visits. I talked to different coaches, and then after communicating with these coaches, I received a few offers. And so from that, I kept just going, going visits, meeting coaches, and communicating with them.
Where do you think you were identified? Was it showcases, tournaments?
I think I was mostly identified from either it was either ID camps, which was the main point, or either ID camps or it was from showcases. I personally think showcases helped me a lot, but also ID camps were a way for the coaches who, if they hadn't really seen me as much, they were able to sit down and look at me, especially in a goalkeeper setting when normally at these camps there's only 7-8 goalkeepers. They're not able to sit there and identify your strengths, weaknesses, and able to look at you, compared to in a game where they were not able to really. Let's say you have a game where you don't get the ball once, they can't tell if you're a good goalkeeper or not if you don't touch the ball. So I feel like ID camps really did help me get recruited.
I think that's a good point. The difficulty with recruiting for goalkeepers is that, especially when you play on a good team, as you had, it really was difficult to get action right every single game. And so some of these coaches would show up to, 20, 30 minutes of the game and not see you make a save or really distribute the ball or really see anything. And so going to the camps was a way, I think, to showcase that as well, for you. One of the questions I think that I would have is, did you also put together a highlight film because we filmed a lot of games? Did you end up putting together any film to send to anybody?
Yes, I actually throughout my high school career, starting sophomore year, I compiled 3 highlight tapes.
Okay.
The first one I made in the beginning of my sophomore year, which I first started out with coaches, and then the next one I made was junior year, then senior year. And even though senior year I was very committed, I still sent out that to my coaches just to keep them in the loop of what was going on and how I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
How long were your highlight videos that you sent them?
Each one was around 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes to 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
And what kind of things did you focus on in the highlight film?
I focused on a couple different aspects. The first one I really wanted to make sure I put, of course, was saves, like diving saves. But I also wanted to put different things that normally you wouldn't really think about as a goalkeeper. I put stuff like foot skills. I put, for example, if I receive a ball, switching the field, I put that in it. I put distribution with my hands,
okay,
as well as communicating. For example, on a corner kick, me moving people from where they're supposed to be, and then let's say me coming out and collecting the corner kick. I'd put that in it, the whole clip of me communicating along with coming and collecting it out to show the coaches that I'm communicating with my players and I can come and collect the ball.
Okay. And so what, coming into I think your junior year and your senior year, when you were getting, I think it was the regionals where you finally did get your final offer from JMU. What was that process like? I know you had been in contact with them before. What made you decide on JMU at the end of the day?
So the regionals, I went to their ID camp actually. I went to the JMU's ID camp 2 weeks before regionals, or a week and a half. The one that was right before regionals. At that point, I talked to them. I told them I was coming out to ID camp. We kept talking throughout after the ID camp. They told me they wanted to come out and see me play. So they came to regionals, and then right after regionals, once the tournament was completed, I was offered, and that's when I accepted. And the reason that I chose JMU was because when I went to campus, it felt like it was home there. That's like you'll feel it when you go to the school that you want to go to, and you feel different there. You feel like you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really made the decision for me. Was when I went there, I knew that was the place.
Okay. And what about maybe the program as well as the school? So I think that what's important to highlight for you is that it wasn't just the soccer that you were focused on. It was actually this type of school that you wanted to go to. I think it was big for you, right? You had your list of things that were important to decide on a school, and it wasn't just the soccer. But what about, I guess, the soccer program, the coach itself? What made that program, and school as a total package the deal sealer for you?
So the coaching staff. When I first went to visit, I sat down. The coach. I didn't meet with the head coach at the time, who's now the head coach now. But when I first met with the coaching staff, I felt they were very welcoming, which I had experienced with a couple of schools, but I felt very welcomed. I felt as if they wanted me, like they wanted me as much as I wanted them. Mm-hmm. And that was something that really stuck out to me and made me even believe more in my mind that I want to go there, because they wanted me more than wanted me as much as I wanted them. And it was, And
okay. Go ahead.
And one of the reason why I chose JMU was obviously the academics, but the soccer team. I got to sit down and talk to the team and I got to hang out with the team for a little bit, and and I also did this with other schools, and they were a team that they like, for example, the first time we all sat around like a table, we're talking in the locker room, and they would let us into the conversation. They would talk to us. They would they would not kind of sit there and talk around us. They were inviting to us, and they wanted us to be part of the team, which really made a difference to me.
Okay. That sounds good. Alan, do you have anything? You have one?
Yeah, I am looking through some of the questions that some people I wanted to ask here.
In terms of, I'll have one more. I'll follow up with one more here. In terms of the rostering right now, how many goalkeepers are you competing against right now at JMU?
I'm currently competing against 3. There's 4 goalkeepers on the roster.
So just to give you an idea of the younger players who are in that same role as you are, and this happens a lot with college players. You know, even though you get recruited, you're still having to compete now once you get there for time on the field and your position. So I wanted you to mention that because that was the case when I went to college as well. We had 11 recruits. I'm not sure how big your recruiting class was, but I remember having 3 or 4 goalkeepers on the team every year, and it's very competitive. How do you find the training environment with the challenge of having to obviously earn time, but how do you find the training about how good are those goalkeepers?
The goalkeepers are very good. The goalkeeper, the starting goalkeeper right now is someone that I look up to with everything. He is beyond one of probably the best goalkeeper I've ever played with, and just seeing him play during practice and the way he works so hard in every single ball, every single rep, everything is it's what I strive to be. So it's really good to see players who they work hard every second of the whole practice, every second, and they are really trying to make themselves better. That's one of the main differences that I also saw from going up into college level.
So I mean, so just to give a little context, Nathan was pretty much always a number 1 at goalkeeper on your teams, right? I don't think you really were. I mean, you were challenged when you were in the Hotspurs. You had 2 other goalkeepers or a goalkeeper, and it changed obviously later on. But you always find a way to obviously be the number 1 goalkeeper, and now you're having to kind of be in a different role. Do you find that difficult to kind of handle as a player who's a goalkeeper that was a number 1 for all these years, pretty much when you started till now, and then having to transition to be more of a backup?
Yeah, it was very difficult. For my freshman first semester, I was redshirting, and if you don't know what redshirting means, it's basically the first semester. So the first season, you are not allowed. It's basically saving a year of eligibility for your back end. So I'll be a 5th year when I'll be a 5th year senior.
Yep.
And my first semester was I'm gonna be honest, it was kind of rough being a redshirt freshman. It was hard because it was hard just to see the players going on trips, seeing the players doing all these stuff, and I was not able to partake in it because I'm redshirting. And but the thing is that always kept me going was that the team, we all practice together, we are all a team. So no matter what, no matter who's playing, no matter who's going, even though it's hard mentally to deal with not being technically there for the team, you still know you're part of the team. You still know that you still need each other during practices. You guys still play off each other, base everything off each other. So yeah.
Okay. I think that's important to kind of highlight because especially at the club level, which again you never had the experience, but you saw your teammates. When we had a large roster, not everyone traveled, for example, to say Disney to play in the showcases. Not everyone. You have teams now in the club level at McLean where you have 20 kids, 22 kids on the roster, and only 18 can travel and play. Now Nathan is having to experience the other side of that, which is, as a freshman, they decided to redshirt him to save a year, which means he doesn't waste a year of eligibility, and he's able to play 4 years still after this year. And I'm sure mentally, obviously, it's a transition for you to have to practice all the time, but not get to play any games. But that's kind of the reality that a lot of players, even non-field players, have to go through their first year. Their first year is usually pretty tough. If you remember the conversation we had with Daniel a few weeks back, same thing. It's very difficult those first few months to transition from a player like Nathan or like Daniel, who were starters for their teams and played a lot and won a lot, and then go into an environment where you're with other players who are in the same boat as you, who've won a lot, who've played a lot of games, and now somebody has to sit out. And there's too many players, basically. So it's good to hear, you're going through it and you're struggling, but it's also helping you grow as a person.
Absolutely.
I think it's good. going
So
out.
as you were talking about the difficulty of that fall year in your first year, what did you do to juggle the workload between school, academics, supporting your team, still being part of practice and all that stuff? What were some of the things that you did to juggle all that, and how hard was it?
Well, it was pretty hard the first semester juggling everything, and the one thing that did help me a lot was when you're at a program like JMU or any program, they help you with academics. They help you with that. Your day is pretty much scheduled. For example, my normal day in the fall was in the morning I'd practice at 7:30. We leave the locker room the practice was at 8. We leave the locker room at 7:45. Ended around 10:30. Then we would have lift after until about 12:30, and then we would eat, go to classes, and then the rest of the day I kind of treated it like a 9 to 5 job. From 9 to 5, I was going to do nothing but soccer and school. That way, towards later at night, I could relax. I could watch a movie or something. I didn't have to be all cramped. And I didn't really do the 9 to 5 job in the beginning of this fall semester because of college, and it's kind of all overwhelming. And it was the first semester, and it's kind of, but the second semester, I really focused on the 9 to 5, kind of working soccer and school during those times, and it has significantly helped with grades and everything on those parts.
Yep. That's a transition as well for most players, is time management, because you're by yourself for the first time, right, ever, and having to make those decisions. So I'm glad you're making that adjustments. Clyde had a question here: how big of a jump in terms of the play? I think that's what he's going at, from club to college. How big of a difference of the skill set of the players, physicality, tactics? What would you say the differences between the teams in terms of club and now college?
I would say the size. I mean, I've always been a very big kid when I've been playing against kids at my same age. But right when I went to the college, like right when we went for preseason, I was overwhelmed by the size of the other people. I was playing against full-grown men, and I'm an 18-year-old kid at the time, last fall.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to deal. It was very hard. The physicality was probably the hardest part to deal with.
How many practices of the week did you guys have, either in preseason and now during the season? So preseason, how long was preseason? Kind of go from there, and then during the season, how many practices a week?
We had captain's practice first, which started in around July, ended before our real preseason, which started August 11th, which I believe was August 11th. And during the captain's practices, we had around we practiced every day. We had one day off in the week.
Okay.
It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was off, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We practiced, and then during the week, like during like the school year, during the season, we would have first starting off. We'd have. Should I start with preseason? No, sorry, preseason. Preseason started off with 2-a-days. So the first things we have 6:30 practices. Then we have a little bit of time off to eat. Then we'd have practice again around 12. We had 2 days. We'd have 2-a-day. Then we have a 1-day, 2-a-day, 1-day.
Yep.
Kind of went on like that. I don't really remember exactly how many practices we had. It was kind of just all really overwhelming for me at that point. But so then once we got into the season, it seemed to die down a little bit with how much we were practicing because the games are starting and everything. But we still practice every day during the week. Took of course game days and Saturdays we took off, and then Sunday we'd only have a light little workout or a light little kind of getting our feet back under us after a game.
Okay. I think one of the questions that we sort of answered, the difference between, do you want to ask that one, the recruiting process? We sort of answered that one, right?
I think so. I mean, what would you say, Nate, just from your experience of seeing your teammates, what's a big difference between your recruiting that you went through as a goalkeeper and then maybe seeing some of the field players? I mean, I know you didn't go through that, but I'm sure you saw some of your teammates go through it. So do you think there's a big difference?
I think at least from, I'm actually going to go to Daniel, for example, because Daniel's a field player. Daniel DB, he, for example, was this is an example of a field player. When he was playing, it was always like he was always on the ball, always able to show his skill, always able to do that, always able to kind of show himself. And I feel like as a goalkeeper, it was kind of harder to do that because you kind of are waiting to see what happens in the game. You are reacting. You're not starting the play. You're more of the time reacting. So I feel like that's probably the biggest difference between recruiting is coaches don't really get to see you as much. So you have to put yourself out there. You have to make it clear to the coaches that you are interested and you want to be on their team.
Yep.
Very good.
I think that's important to kind of highlight, and I'll piggyback off of that in the sense that you had a lot of big games, which I think you did well in, which you saved PKs or you won us tournaments, or you obviously won us, help us win nationals. You were in the goal when we went to PKs for that. I think that also helps. So having that film to be able to put together, and if you don't have that film, or at least you're still developing that, going to ID camps I think is important. And then just I would say what I've been telling coaches, goalkeepers as well, is that being vocal on the field at least shows your intelligence, right? You're able to instruct the team as best you can, like a coach from the back part of the field. And even if you're not saving goals, coaches will see that and go, okay, maybe, that's something to look at. So I think that's one of those things that also helps in the recruiting process. I know some of the goalkeepers might not know what that's like, but that's what you have to develop over time. So we had another one talking about physicality. Do you think 5'9" player, a good goalkeeper, a good player will succeed versus a 6'8", 6'9"? Does size matter to the coaches?
I do think that size does matter to some coaches. I mean, as a goalkeeper, being a bigger goalkeeper does help a lot. I mean, it helps with being more like physically there. Physically, you're kind of taking over the field you're kind of showing that you're the one in charge. I think that but a 5'9" goalkeeper can easily succeed with the correct skill and the correct hard work. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you work hard, then you will be able to succeed. I mean,
yeah. Well, I would just say, giving you our backup goalkeeper from McLean is also playing. That was our number 2. Or you guys pretty much split time most of the games, but he's also playing in college as well, and he's around 5'9", 5'10". I would say. I think he's probably sprouted up a little bit, but at the time he was getting recruited, he was a shorter goalkeeper. He's quicker, different reflexes, good with his feet, good with his distribution, very good with communication. Those things you have to. If you don't have the natural size, which coaches do, tend to lean towards, but even being a smaller goalkeeper, you could still get recruited. I think that's important to know. I had one quick question. I think it's a good one. How do you deal with the pressure of the blame of giving up a goal?
So I used to have a pretty hard time with that when I was younger. As I've grown, it's kind of grown on me now. I still have a hard time with it when I let up a goal, but I kind of, at this point now, once you've played so many games, you let up a lot of goals. You know if you've made the mistake or what is happening. And I feel like for me, always after the games, I try not to get on myself in the moment, because right when you get on yourself in the moment, you ruin your whole mindset. Everything's gonna be ruined at that point. So I always try at the end of the games, I'll go through, if there's film, I'll go through that, or I'll go through in my head, what went wrong? What did I do? And then that you can use that as something to learn from, not to kind of bring yourself down. Instead, you can learn from it. If I got scored on this way, next time I'm going to do this differently so that doesn't happen. That's one of the main things I kind of learned later. And even now, like during practices at JMU, I use that. I try to see what I could do better so next time I don't get scored on in that same situation. It's
important. So, I think the answer to that to sum that up would be experience over time helps you deal with that. As you're a younger player, you probably got down on yourself. And the idea is to be positive, obviously, and then use that to get better. Use your mistakes to get better, and that's how you grow as a player. Just speaking from my own experience, and I think Nathan just described that as well. That over time he got used to making mistakes and used it, and now he studies himself and things like that. So I think that's important to know. We're kind of wrapping up right now. We're about to.
Yep.
With this?
Yes, sir. I think, Nate, you want to finish with your words to the goalkeepers out there to McLean?
Yeah. I just want to give a couple of advices for people going through the process right now. So I know when I was going through the process, I could have used this, and I think Coach Shamil touched on it a little bit. My first point of advice is grades. Grades, even though it's off the field, are very important. If you have a low GPA and are a fantastic player, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get recruited. And if you have a higher GPA, coaches will like that. Coaches will know that you're studious. Coaches will know that you're trying on and off the field. The other advice that is communication. As a goalkeeper, communication is extremely important. And all college coaches want and need a goalkeeper who is in charge of his box or field and someone who has a presence on the field. So I feel like that is a very big deal when it comes to communication. Is a very big piece of advice that I'd be giving. And then my last piece of advice is ID camps. I touched on it earlier, but I have been told by different perspectives regarding ID camps. But I would, if I'm being honest, I would not be at JMU at this moment if I had not went to that ID camp. So I would highly suggest if you're interested in a school and you want them to know you, then you should reach out to them and go to the ID camps.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mason, great job, Mason. It's great to see you growing up, man. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Coach Jamil's done a fantastic job with you, man.
Thank you.
And yeah, again, I love the fact that you're growing as a player. I love the fact that you've moved on and are doing well. And I can't wait to see more from you. And appreciate you coming on. So
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Bye.